On July 31st, 2026, a new federal rule takes effect that could affect your Medicaid coverage even if you are over 65 and have never worried about proof of work in your life. That is one of 3 separate rule changes hitting seniors this year, and the other 2 are not waiting for July at all. One has already been affecting food assistance for months, and the third is a Social Security garnishment that has been paused, reversed, and paused again so many times that even the government has not locked down exactly when it restarts. Today, I am going through what is actually true about all 3: the real dates, the real numbers, and the real exemptions. Because a lot of what is circulating online right now gets the timeline wrong. And getting the timeline wrong on something like this can cost you real money. If you are on Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, or SNAP, or you have a parent or spouse who is, stay with me, because at least one of these 3 almost certainly touches your household. My name is Robert Hensley, and every week I go through the actual federal guidance, the actual agency rules, and the actual court filings on these programs, because the agencies themselves rarely explain any of this in plain language, and a lot of what spreads online gets dates and details wrong in ways that genuinely confuse people. I'm not here to sell you anything. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because these rules are shifting fast right now, sometimes week to week, and I update this channel the moment something changes. Let's start with that Medicaid rule, since it is the one with an actual confirmed date attached to it, and it is also the one most seniors wrongly assume does not apply to them at all. On June 1st, 2026, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services published the official rule implementing a new work requirement for a specific group of Medicaid enrollees. And that rule becomes formally effective on July 31st, 2026. Here is the part that matters most for almost everyone watching this. If you are 65 or older, if you are enrolled in Medicare alongside Medicaid, or if you receive supplemental security income, you are generally exempt from this work requirement entirely. The rule targets adults 19 to 64 in the Medicaid expansion population who do not already qualify for an exemption. So if that describes you, the work requirement itself is not the danger. The real danger is something else entirely, and it is the reason I still want every single one of you to pay attention, even if you personally are exempt. Every state is federally required to mail outreach letters to potentially affected enrollees between the end of June and the end of August this year. And full state enforcement is rolling out on different timelines through January of 2027, with one state, Nebraska, already enforcing since May. That means a flood of official-looking letters landing in mailboxes across the country, and the federal government's own projection estimates more than 2 million people could lose coverage in the first year alone. Not because they are ineligible, but because paperwork gets confused, ignored, or lost. Picture a man named Sherwood, 72 years old, on both Medicare and Medicaid, who received one of these letters and nearly threw it away, assuming it was junk mail meant for someone younger, since he had heard the coverage was for people who needed to prove they were working. If he had thrown it out, and the letter actually required a simple confirmation of his exempt status that he never sent back, his coverage could have lapsed over nothing more than an unopened envelope. So here is exactly what to do if a Medicaid letter arrives at your address this summer, whether it is addressed to you or to someone else in your household. Open it the same day. Read exactly what it is asking, and if anything is unclear, call your state Medicaid office or your state health insurance assistance program and have them walk you through it at no charge. If your address or phone number on file is out of date, update it now, since a letter that never reaches you is a deadline you can never meet. That is the one with a confirmed date still ahead of us. The next one I want to cover is not waiting for any future date at all. It has already been changing food assistance for people over 55 since earlier this year, and a lot of the people it affects still do not know it applies to them. If you are between 55 and 64 and you receive SNAP food assistance, a rule that used to exempt you automatically because of your age no longer does. And this is not a future change. Most states were already required to be enforcing it by February of this year. Before this law, the work requirement tied to what is called able-bodied adults without dependents stopped applying entirely once you turned 55. That protection is gone. The upper age limit now runs all the way to 64, which means people just a few years from Medicare, who had been exempt their entire adult lives, are now expected to document 80 hours a month of work, job training, or volunteering, just to keep receiving benefits past 3 months. On top of that, automatic exemptions that used to cover veterans and people experiencing homelessness were removed entirely, and the threshold states need to qualify for a local waiver was raised sharply, making waivers much harder to get than before. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a nonpartisan research organization, estimates more than 1 million adults aged 55 to 64 could lose food assistance nationwide because of this single change. Picture a woman named Naomi, 61 years old, recently let go from a retail job, living on savings and a modest SNAP benefit while she looks for work in a slow market. A year ago, her age alone would have kept her clear of any work requirement completely. This year, with that protection removed, she received a notice demanding proof of 80 hours a month of activity, or her benefits would stop after 3 months. Naomi did nothing wrong, and her situation did not change at all. The rule underneath her simply moved. If this applies to you or someone in your household, do not brush off any notice from your state SNAP office. Ask directly whether you qualify for an exemption, since a disability, caregiving for a child under 14, or a documented medical condition can still get you excused. If you do need to log hours, community service and approved training count just as much as paid work. It does not have to be a traditional job. And if you are over 60 with monthly medical costs above $35, make sure your caseworker is applying the excess medical expense deduction, since a large share of eligible seniors never claim it and end up with a smaller benefit than they actually qualify for. That covers the one already in motion right now. The third change is the one with the most confusion swirling around it online, because unlike the other two, nobody, including the government itself, has locked down exactly when it restarts, and I want to walk you through what is actually confirmed versus what is still genuinely uncertain. If you are 62 or older, Still carrying federal student loan debt and behind on payments, the Treasury Offset Program allows the government to intercept a portion of your Social Security check to collect on that debt. This tool was reactivated once in May of 2025 after a long pandemic-era pause. Then the Department of Education paused it again in January of 2026 to roll out a new repayment plan. As of the most recent official information available, the department has not confirmed a firm restart date for this specific type of collection, even though a new repayment program is scheduled to launch on July 1st. So if you have seen a headline claiming garnishment restarts on an exact date this summer, treat that with real caution, because the honest answer right now is that it is expected sometime this year, but not yet officially locked in. Here is the number you do need to hold on to, regardless of the exact date. By law, this type of garnishment is capped at 15% of your monthly Social Security benefit, and your check can never be dropped below $750 a month, no matter how much you owe. An estimated 452,000 Social Security recipients are currently behind on federal student loans and could eventually be affected once collection resumes. Picture a retired mechanic named Earl, 70 years old, living on a modest Social Security check, who co-signed a loan decades ago so his daughter could finish nursing school. She is doing well now, but the loan itself was never fully paid off, and Earl had not thought about it in years until a notice arrived warning him that 15% of his check could eventually be withheld. What Earl did not know, and what a lot of people in his exact position do not know either, is that there is a real way to stop this before it ever touches his account. And it does not require paying anyone a cent. If you qualify for what is called a financial hardship exemption, meaning the garnishment would leave you unable to cover basic living costs, you can stop this before it ever starts. And many people in this exact situation qualify without realizing the option even exists. If you are carrying federal student debt and you are behind, do not wait for a notice to show up. Contact your loan servicer directly and ask specifically about a financial hardship exemption or an income-driven repayment option, and get whatever they agree to in writing. If a notice has already arrived, you typically have a window of time to respond before any withholding begins. So act quickly rather than setting it aside. And I need to warn you about something that always follows news like this. The moment collection activity like this becomes real, scam calls follow right behind it. Someone may call claiming to represent the Department of Education, or a company calling itself something like Student Loan Forgiveness Services, offering to stop your garnishment today if you pay a fee or hand over your banking details. Hang up. You never pay a private company to apply for a hardship exemption or an income-driven plan. That is handled directly through your loan servicer or through the official student aid website, free of charge every time. The same rule applies to the Medicaid and SNAP notices we covered earlier. No legitimate government office will ever call you out of nowhere demanding your bank account or your Social Security number to fix any of this on the spot. You place the call yourself, using the number printed on your own paperwork or your state's official website, never the other way around. Now, let me bring all three of these together so you know exactly where things stand. The Medicaid work requirement is confirmed and effective July 31st. But if you are 65, on Medicare, or receiving SSI, you are generally exempt. The real risk is a confusing letter arriving between June and August that gets set aside instead of answered. The SNAP work requirement for ages 55 to 64 is already in effect in most states right now, not a future event, and more than 1 million older adults are projected to be affected. And Social Security garnishment for defaulted student loans is genuinely paused with no confirmed restart date yet, capped at 15% with a $750 floor whenever it does resume. And a real hardship exemption exists for anyone it eventually reaches. If you know a parent, a spouse, or a friend on any of these programs, please share this video with them today, because getting the actual dates right matters more than most people realize. And if you have got a question about your own situation, drop it in the comments. Every Friday, I answer real viewer questions over on my Posts tab. If this helped you, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you catch every video the moment it goes live. This channel provides educational information only and is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration, Medicare, CMS, the IRS, or any bank.